Hi, my name is Sam Lyons. I'm a freshman here, and I'm here to talk to you about genealogy. Genealogy is defined as the study of families. And what it really is a collection of stories, and these stories can be represented in a lot of ways. They can be represented in a family tree. They can be represented in writings or records. They can be represented through oral stories, and they can be represented through pictures. This is a picture of my great-great-grandfather, and this is a picture that I took of myself. Even 100 years apart, family connections are undeniable. And so I'd like to give you a non-historian's perspective of genealogy through my experience. And my experience actually started with the work of someone else. My grandfather's brother, my Uncle Arnie, was always fascinated by genealogy. And when I was in middle school, he did extensive research on my mom's side of the family. And I could never understand why. To me, it was these seemingly boring tales of old Jews escaping the old country to avoid persecution and coming to America. To be honest, it sounded like every single American Jewish family's story. I was looking at his findings as a whole and not really focusing on the individuals. And that's because these people weren't the people we studied in history. They weren't world leaders. They were just normal people. And to me at the time, that was honestly really boring. All these old pictures and such. It wasn't until I started asking my own questions about these names that I've always grown up hearing, about these pictures in my grandparents' house, that I really found something meaningful. Let's start with some math. My dad is half Filipino, basically. In reality, he's 3/8, which is a weird fraction of an ethnicity to be. And that's because his mom, my grandmother, is 3/4 Filipino. And her father, Charlie Gray, a very American-sounding name, is half Filipino. And why is this significant? Well, Charlie Gray was born on April 8, 1918, in Leyte, on the Philippines. This was far before the globalization that we have today, and that left me wondering, who was Charlie's white parent, and what were they doing in the Philippines? So where could I start? I asked my grandma. And she told me that when she was growing up, she was always told stories of her guitar-playing American grandfather with his handlebar mustache. And so at that point, I knew that it was my Grandpa Charlie's father that was American. And it got me asking a lot of questions. Like, how did he get there? And if he was known as the American, how much of that American identity did he retain? How much of a part of it in his life was it? But I really didn't have much to go off of besides that. So, like most academic endeavors, I went on Wikipedia. You see, my Grandpa Charlie's oldest brother, John, was a flyweight boxer and cross-country runner, and he boxed in the 1932 Olympics. He lost in the first round, but was relevant enough to warrant a small page on the internet, which mentioned the names of his parents, his mother, Ambrosia Perida, and his father, Elihu Wayne Gray. And it said that Elihu Wayne Gray was from Searcy, Arkansas. So now I had a name and a place. But I needed to find out who the man was behind this name. This is a picture of him that my grandma sent me a couple days ago. So, through stories from my relatives and through census records on Ancestry.com, I learned that Elihu Wayne Gray was born in a covered wagon in between Texas and Searcy, Arkansas in 1873. He came from a Hick family. Every single generation, the first 3 sons were named John, Wayne, and Charlie, though not necessarily in that order, which is why his middle name is Wayne. Everyone in the family went into the Army. In fact, there's an old story that his father, John Wilson Gray, had 5 brothers, and when they were living in Waynesboro, Tennessee, 3 of them fought for the Union in the Civil War, and 3 of them fought for the Confederacy. So, like his family before him, Elihu joined the army, and he fought in the Spanish-American War. He was deployed to the island of Leyte in the Philippines, and there he met the love of his life, and he never came back to America. He stayed in the Philippines and taught English, and I think that's an amazing story. This is him and his family, when he was an old man. That's him. To his left is my great-grandfather. Behind him is his brother, the boxer, and to his right is his wife. Now, this learned a lot, but I still had so many unanswered questions, because Elihu Wayne Gray could have taken Ambrosia back to America to marry her, but instead he chose to stay in the Philippines and never even came back to visit. And so that left me wondering, how much of his Americanness did he retain, and why did he stay? And I don't know if I'll ever find the answers to these questions, but I'm still going to look. So this is why I search, because before I looked any deeper, Elihu Wayne Gray was just a name. And what I set out to do was to put a story to that name, to find out who the man really was. Because all these pictures in your grandparents' house, all of these names that are mentioned in passing are so much more than footnotes in a history book. They're real people with real stories. And to me, these stories are far more interesting than any novel because they are real. And that's why I search. So, what can you do to begin looking into your family's past? Well, you first need a question. It can be something monumental that you don't know about your family and want to know. Or it could be something seemingly simple, but you need a genuine curiosity. Once you have that, the rest will follow. Stories from your older relatives will help give you little pieces of information that you can begin to put together a story with. With websites like Ancestry.com, census records are available to help you learn locations at certain times and names at certain points. And one by one, you can piece this together like a jigsaw puzzle. And like a jigsaw puzzle, when you look at the single pieces like a single name, it can seem meaningless. But when you view it as a whole, these pictures paint a real story. And so I urge you after this event to see if you can go out and try and find some stories worth talking about. Thank you.